year, 1792. The place, England. The American Revolution is over. England has lost its colonies. Now France is being torn apart by a revolution. Life seems to go on as usual, but underneath is a current of fear, a fear of revolution.
Ah, my dear friend Fox, so nice to see you again.
Welcome, Burke.
Madam.
We are delighted to see you, Edmund.
Paine? What's Paine doing here? What is this, Fox?
Oh, peace, Burke.
Peace there will not be in this world with all the Burkes who thrive on strife.
Tonight we will all thrive on one of my famous meals. For this will be an evening of reconciliation. Too many of us who were formerly friends are now political foes, separated by the tensions of the times. Tonight, politics and revolution will be treated as jokes, as perhaps they are. Over good food and conversation, animosities will be forgotten and friendships renewed.
Sheridan, what do you consider man's greatest accomplishment?
Oh, that's easy. My latest play.
The hosts this evening are Charles James Fox and his wife, Elizabeth. For years, Fox has been one of the dominant figures in English politics. Among the guests are Edmund Burke, politician, orator, writer. Burke supported the American Revolution, but is now strongly opposed to the French Revolution. He has expressed his concern in Reflections on the Revolution in France. Thomas Paine. Paine was born in England, journeyed to America where he took part in the Revolution, and has now returned to England. In response to Burke, he has written a passionate defense of the French Revolution called The Rights of Man. Also present are Richard Sheridan, playwright and politician, and the politicians Lords Grey and Loughborough with their wives.
My cigar, Jones.
That will be impossible, sir.
Really? Am I out already?
You have a full box, sir, and half of another.
Oh, good. Then get me one like a good fellow.
Respectfully, sir, it is still impossible.
Jones, you keep using that word, impossible. What exactly is it that is impossible?
That I should fetch your cigar, sir.
They're upstairs, are they not?
They are.
And you are fully capable of walking up those stairs?
Fully capable, sir.
Well, then get my blasted cigar, man.
That is precisely the point. If you want a cigar, you must get it yourself.
What is this, Jones? Is this your idea of a joke?
No, madam. This is my idea of a revolution.
Funny. Very, very funny.
Stop that laughing. Stop it!
Revolution is sweeping the world. First the colonies in America, then France, now in this house. Perhaps in all the houses in England.
Some of us have supported the cause of revolution.
I realize that. But then your personal interests were not at stake. All of you are politicians of power and influence. And two of you, Burke and Paine, are leading spokesmen for and against revolution. Now listen to me carefully. This is no longer just a house. It is a nation. Within these walls dwells a great country with its villages and cities, farms and seaports, rivers and wastelands, with its teeming populace, its history, its government, its laws, its empire, and yes, its king. We must have a king.
Fox! Get up there, Fox! You ought to be our king!
The coronation.
That's what we think of kings.
In this nation, there are thousands of us, tens of thousands of us who are discontented. We see common people dying in senseless wars and starving in the midst of plenty. What are we to do? Bow our heads in submission? Petition our betters for change? Rise up and smite our oppressors? We want Thomas Paine, the great proponent of revolution, and Edmund Burke, who has become the great opponent of same, to debate. The subject will, of course, be revolution. And upon the outcome of their debate, your lives and our fate will depend. Here is man. Men make revolutions. So first we must determine man's nature. Paine.
What do you think, Burke?
Do we have a choice?
I believe that man, uncorrupted by government, is reasonable. I believe in the certain progress of mankind through the development of the human mind. Men have only to be given the chance to think, and they will neither act unwisely nor be misled. In short, I believe in the power and inevitable triumph of reason.
Burke?
Belief in the goodness and perfectibility of man is in the very air we breathe. It is a philosophy that has been persuasively spread by Rousseau and Paine here. But it is a false doctrine. From my observation, man is governed not by reason, but by passion. He is full of ambition, greed, and fear. Being a man, I love men. Yet if I depended on man's benevolence, I would have been destroyed long ago.
With such contradictory views of mankind, how is man to be governed?
As little as possible. In a free society, each man is his own governor.
Liberty must be limited in order to be enjoyed. Society requires that the inclinations of men should frequently be controlled. This can only be done by a power outside themselves, by government strong enough to govern.
Testimonials.
One day the local squire came and fenced off part of the land that my family had worked for generations. He did this so he could keep sheep on it. I could no longer make a living and had to give up my farm.
My husband, my children, and myself moved to the city because my husband thought he could find work there. But there were too many people and not enough work. My husband began to steal, use the money to buy rum. One day, I found him in an alleyway, dead. I made a living for myself and the children any way I could. Now I work here.
I had a wife and small child. One night I had a few pints at the tavern. I must have been drugged. When I woke up, I was on a ship, pressed into the crew. Look! This is how we were punished for even small violations of the rules. For years, I was forced to serve. When I was finally able to get home, my wife and child had vanished. I never saw them again.
I was thrown into a debtor's prison by a nobleman who falsely accused me of owing him pennies.
I was born a slave. Comments, gentlemen?
Abuses do exist in our system, but these shortcomings are inseparable from human nature and the imperfections of all human conditions. And what system works better than ours with all its faults?
Burke can afford to defend the system, since he and his friends benefit mightily from it. Millions are paid in taxes to support kings, courts, wars, and other follies of government. And most of this comes not from the wealthy, who after all control the machinery of government, but from the poor. Those who are taxed most can afford least.
Do you promise happiness, Paine? Do you propose doing away with inequality? Are men and his institutions to become completely fair and rational because you will them to be?
There is no simple solution to man's nature and affairs. Those who promise perfect reforms deceive cruelly.
You deceive cruelly. For under the guise of the practical politician, you fight for the narrow interests of the privileged class.
I fight for reality with all its limitations, a reality which is infinitely complex, a reality in which politicians must balance, compromise, and barter, a reality in which an imperfect good is still a good.
The assertion of the rights of man.
We declare that men are born equal, that the purpose of government is to preserve the inalienable rights of man, that among these rights are...
Now imagine that this revolution now involves not just a room full of people, but an entire nation. Imagine that the House has become a revolutionary assembly, that Fox is now a king and his wife Elizabeth a queen, and that upon the outcome of Burke and Paine's debate rests the fate of 1 million human lives.
Furthermore, we declare that whenever a government becomes destructive of these rights, then citizens have the right to alter or abolish this government. This we call the right of revolution.
Reactions. I say bravo to those who wrote this document.
High-sounding, abstract phrases on paper do not automatically give men rights. The real rights of man in government are their advantages grown out of tradition and usage. These rights only reveal themselves over a space of time. The tyranny of the abstract idea is what frightens me.
The rights men crave are not metaphysical fancy or abstract speculation. They represent a determination to end the wrongs of centuries. They grow as much from the past as the institutions men find malignant. Mr. Burke's concept of government, however, is one in which changes, if they occur at all, always come too little and too late.
Better to change too slowly than too quickly. To preserve the best from the past and add to it.
History is a record of violence and treachery. The past must be purged, not preserved.
Rage and frenzy can pull down more in half an hour than deliberation and foresight can build up in 100 years.
Then let's pull it down. To say we should preserve a government because its oppressions have been long suffered is the strongest argument for its overthrow.
The king is in our custody. Will he please come forward?
Your Majesty, your subjects have many grievances. Here is a list of our complaints. You're not going to read the list, Highness?
Why bother? Since you add to it on a day-to-day basis, to try to grant all your demands would in effect give you the rule of the nation.
By force of arms, we already rule.
I rule by the grace of God, as did my father before me, as will my son after me.
To derive your authority from God is an abomination.
Be that as it may, I will never relinquish my authority to you people.
The king is intractable. Be it resolved by this revolutionary assembly that the king be forced to give up his crown.
Burke and Paine, what are we to do?
To be obliged from birth to look up to a creature no better than ourselves as master of our fortunes, and to receive his will as our law. What could be more humiliating? The idea of hereditary rulers dooms man to descend like cattle from one set of owners to another.
Whatever the form of government, as long as man considers it natural or inevitable, he will accept it. Strip away this conviction and all order will disappear. Only force will hold together what had been held by common assent.
All persons who deign to lead, whether they be kings, senators, or nobles, are the servants of the people. If such magistrates abuse their trust, the people have the right to depose and punish them.
Who are the people, Paine? What kind of group is this that can change at its whim governments and rulers? What we really have here are unscrupulous leaders who vindicate their actions by saying, "It is the will of the people."
You'll now vote on the issue of deposing or retaining the king.
All in favor of deposing the king, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it, then.
The king is no longer the king. He will henceforth be addressed as Citizen Fox. Citizen Fox, you will give your word not to leave the city.
I give my word.
Fox, the ex-king, returns to his palace.
You must leave immediately, Your Majesty. There's a passageway that leads to the other side of the garden.
We have a carriage waiting there, so that your departure will be inconspicuous. The cavalry escort will meet you outside the city.
And now our revolution is moving close to the events of the French Revolution. For the ex-king is urged to break his word to the Revolutionary Assembly and take flight.
They will say that I desert my country, that I flee in terror.
All Europe now fears revolution.
Your presence in another country will rally armies to you. You'll return in triumph.
I gave my word not to leave.
To the traitors and thieves, you must be steel, my lord.
Unfortunately, I am only flesh.
As happened in France, the ex-king, dressed as a servant, flees with his family through the night. But the arrangements are bungled. The promised cavalry escort never meets the carriage. During a stop, the ex-king pays for food. His portrait is on the coin. He is recognized. Near the border, a roadblock stops the carriage.
Halt there! Nobody move!
Who are you?
The Baroness de Corfe, and this is an outrage.
Keep them back. Keep them back. I want the truth. Who are you?
I am the...
Here's my wife, and here are my children. I ask you to show the same consideration you always have to the king.
The craven flight has ended. The king has just been captured. We have had ample proof that Citizen Fox is not to be trusted. He is an unregenerate enemy of the people and an active threat to the revolution. Therefore, be it resolved by this assembly that the ex-king and his family be separated and individually imprisoned.
What say our debaters?
What can I say, since you revolutionists have a total contempt for the past? All that counts with you is a present sense of convenience. You proponents of novelty and mad innovation ridicule me for my respect for the past. But a nation is not just an idea of area and numbers. It has continuity which extends in time as well as in space. It is not the choice of one day or one set of people, but the deliberate election of ages and generations. You say a process of this kind is slow, that it is not fit for an assembly which glories in performing in a few days the work of ages. You are correct, for it is one of the excellences of a system in which time is an assistant that it is slow. Government is a partnership, but not a partnership in the trade of pepper or tobacco that can be dissolved at will. It is a partnership between those who are living, those who are dead, and those who are yet to be born.
There never did. There never can. There never will exist any group of men in any country possessed of the right to command how future men shall be governed or who shall govern them. The vanity and presumption of governing beyond the grave is the most ridiculous of tyrannies. The circumstances of the world are constantly changing. The opinions of man change also. Every age and every generation must be free to act for itself. I am contending for the rights of the living. Mr. Burke speaks for the authority of the dead. Who is to choose how we are governed? The living or the dead?
The living! I'll say you won't. Will it be imprisonment?
No more luxury for them. They've known enough of it. Acquaint them with the cold, dark cells of poor men. Take them out of my sight.
It is our feeling, we of the Committee for Safety and Security, that Citizen Fox, our former king, will be a rallying point for enemies of
We desire the death of the king.
Impossible.
No. We are assailed by enemies from within and without. Every dissident faction looks to him for leadership. Our security can only be purchased with his head.
I voted to make the king a common man. I even voted to put him in jail when he broke his word to us. But I did not intend that physical harm should come to him.
Do I hear the voice of counter-revolution? Of crypto-royalism here in the Assembly? I promise you, the Committee for Safety and Security will root out any threat to the people from whatever source.
The people!
Let us hear the speakers before we decide.
We have already heard enough from the speakers.
It's their job to guide
The
us.
revolution is in full flood. It can only be guided by the light and reason from within.
Burke and Paine!
Burke Let them speak, then. The revolution is not afraid of speech.
The greatest force that can be brought to a revolution is reason and common interest. We want this abrupt change to occur with the same quiet operation that any measure determined by rational thought and open discussion is accomplished. It would not only be wrong, but bad policy to attempt by force what can be accomplished by reason. Let this revolution be generated not by hatred, but by reason, by a system of universal peace, by exalting the rights of man.
Your noble sentiments, Paine, have fallen like pebbles into the boundless sea. A small number of men have taken over from a mass of politically inexperienced people, and only a dictator will be able to bring order out of the chaos they have created. There they stand, the assassins, who in the name of reason slay sense and order. They claim to be free, but theirs is the freedom of the homicidal maniac escaped from his cell. They terrorize people in the name of the people and talk constantly of liberty in a place where it has ceased to exist. Their laws are decided before they are debated, and they anticipate plots by preventive murder. And like the cannibal shark, they feed upon each other. In the groves of their academy, you see nothing but the guillotine.
Even though man's darkest aspect has revealed itself here, I have not lost faith in the principles of revolution. We have seen in America rebellion without reprisals and without terror. We will see it again. Out of this present carnage, lasting benefits will come. The rights of man are stronger than tyrants or armies. They are a great sun rising and spreading light upon the earth. They will prevail.
Fear not. I am alive and well. Better a live fox than a dead king. And those you thought harmed are healthy. This was an entertainment designed by myself and our very good friend, that brilliant playwright, Richard Sheridan. and starring my personal valet, that incomparable servant, Horace Jones. Jones, my cigar.
At once, sir.
All's right again. Of course, our friends Burke and Paine were not aware of our little joke, nor should they have been. For underneath our charade was a very serious purpose, throwing into relief the concept of revolution. This is an age of revolution, and we must try to come to grips with it. Thank you, Jones. Now, it is true, we stacked the deck. The revolution we showed degenerated into a reign of terror. But this is exactly what is happening in France. And if I may project ahead in time, it is very much like what will happen in Russia. Is this deterioration inevitable? If so, why didn't it occur in the United States? At what point does a prudent man seriously consider rebellion with all its risks? And what practical alternatives are there to revolution? We have acted out our political drama. Burke and Paine have presented contrasting views of man, political change, and government. And now it is your turn to discuss the great question of revolution.